Welcome to the USDA APHIS Veterinary Services presentation for USDA Accredited Veterinarians on the international export of animals and an accredited veterinarian's role. In this video, you will learn about the regulations governing the international movement of animals, what accreditation is, and your responsibilities as an accredited veterinarian when certifying animals for international movement, where to obtain the import regulations for the country your patient is traveling to, including the health certificate, what comprises a health certificate, the different types of health certificates, the steps to issuing a health certificate, common mistakes accredited veterinarians make when issuing a health certificate, and the consequences of those mistakes. You will also learn about USDA APHIS's electronic certification system, VEHCS, and where to find your resources, including who to contact when you need help preparing a patient to travel to another country. When animals travel to another country from the U.S., they generally must meet the requirements of that country in the form of import regulations. These import regulations are set by the government of that country based on the health standards the animal must meet. As such, requirements can vary from country to country based on diseases of concern, and requirements can vary based on the animal's purpose in that country, including the length of time the animal resides there. These requirements that may need to be met can be broadly categorized as examinations, identification, vaccination, testing, and/or treatments performed on or administered to the animal, which are then captured in a health certificate issued by a veterinarian. The United States Department of Agriculture's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services, or USDA APHIS, is the competent authority for animal health in the U.S. As a result of this authority, USDA APHIS is responsible for negotiating import regulations with other countries to promote the movement and trade of animals from the U.S., and endorsing international export health certificates issued by USDA accredited veterinarians for those animals. USDA APHIS is also responsible for the National Veterinary Accreditation Program, or NVAP, which was the result of Congress's passage of the Animal Health Protection Act. The Animal Health Protection Act authorized USDA to establish a veterinary accreditation program wherein licensed or legally able to practice veterinarians volunteer to become accredited in one state and may be authorized in additional states to perform official regulatory functions on behalf of USDA APHIS. To perform accredited duties in additional states, accredited veterinarians must apply for and be granted authorization in each additional state other than the state in which the veterinarian was initially accredited. As a veterinarian who volunteered to become accredited, you are regulated by the standards of conduct for accredited veterinarians as found in the Code of Federal Regulations, specifically 9 CFR 161.4. For the purpose of issuing international export health certificates, the salient points of these standards is that it is your responsibility when issuing a health certificate for an animal to move to another country that it is accurately and fully completed by staying up to date on the regulations governing the international movement of animals, and that you conducted any of the required inspections, tests, vaccinations, or treatments required. Accredited veterinarians are divided into two categories, specifically Category 1 and Category 2, based on the animals those accredited veterinarians may work with. Category 1 accredited veterinarians may work with all species, with the exception of food and fiber species, horses, birds, aquatic animals, all other livestock species, and zoo animals that can transmit exotic animal diseases to livestock. This means Category 1 accredited veterinarians work with such animals as dogs, cats, rodents, rabbits, non-human primates, native non-ruminant wildlife, and marine mammals. Whereas Category 2 accredited veterinarians can work with all species, including the ones Category 1 accredited veterinarians can and cannot work with. What this means to you is that it is your responsibility to ensure you follow regulations to only certify an animal once it is compliant with the destination country's requirements. This is accomplished by performing any examination, identification, vaccination, testing, or treatment required by the destination country, by completely and accurately recording those aforementioned requirements in the version of the health certificate required by the destination country, and ensuring those requirements and the issuance of the health certificate is within the time frame required by the destination country. Failure to fulfill the standards may jeopardize your accreditation status, so always make sure an animal and its health certificate is compliant with the destination country's import regulations. And if you know the animal is not compliant, do not issue a health certificate attesting to the animal being compliant. We'll discuss this again later on. When USDA APHIS is officially notified of another country's import regulations via government-to-government communication, that information is available on USDA APHIS's website. For pets, this information is available on the USDA APHIS Pet Travel website, commonly referred to as the PTW. For all other types of animals, this information is located in the USDA APHIS International Regulations for Animal Exports, also known as the IRegs. Again, requirements for animals to enter another country are set by that country's government, so the information available in the PTW and IRegs is the result of government-to-government negotiations, which is why the PTW and IRegs, not privately owned websites like those for pet travel, should be your primary resource for researching the requirements to send a patient to another country. Not every country has notified USDA APHIS of their import regulations for every type of animal. If you cannot find information for your type of patient to another country on the PTW or IRegs, this means USDA APHIS was not notified of that country's requirements. It is then the exporter's responsibility to obtain the import requirements. In general, we recommend contacting the animal health officials of the destination country, as they are the body who sets and enforces these requirements. Another source for obtaining requirements in these situations is from import permits. Some countries issue import permits before an animal is permitted to enter, and the import permit may list the requirements the animal must meet for entry. As we've discussed, the requirements an animal must meet to enter another country are generally captured on a health certificate that the destination country will then review to check the animal may enter their country. While there are different types of health certificates, they all require the same basic information. This includes the name of the owner and their physical address in the U.S., referred to as the consignor, the name and physical address of the owner in the destination country, referred to as the consignee, where the animal is originating from in the U.S., where the animal is departing the U.S., the date the animal is scheduled to depart the U.S., how the animal will travel to the destination country, the date you examine the animal, the number of animals included on the health certificate, the information that will identify the animal to the foreign government officials, any information on vaccinations, testing, treatments, and certification statements when required per the import regulations, and your printed name, signature, and date of issuance of the health certificate. There are numerous types of health certificates. Historically, USDA APHIS created generic health certificates based on the type of animal for use with any country. These generic health certificates are the APHIS Form 7001 for small animals and non-human primates, seen here, the VS Form 176 for poultry and their eggs, seen here, the VS Form 17140 for livestock, seen here, and the VS Form 17141 for aquatic animals, seen here. In recent years, countries have moved to requiring a health certificate specific to them and the type of animal that also identifies the requirements within the health certificate. These country-specific health certificates come in the form of ones created by the country, like the European Union did for imports of dogs, cats, and ferrets, as seen here, or a USDA APHIS version that is tailored to the type of animal and destination country, such as with the health certificate seen here for pet dogs and cats to Colombia, or the VS Form 17145 for non-slaughter horses to Canada, seen here. Up until recent years, accredited veterinarians had only one option for issuing a health certificate, and that was by use of a carbon copy packet of the APHIS and VS forms, or printing the health certificate from the IRegs or PTW onto a piece of paper, which was then submitted to the USDA Endorsement Office by overnight shipping or delivering in person. A new and revolutionizing way for accredited veterinarians to issue international health certificates and submit them for USDA APHIS endorsement is the Veterinary Export Health Certification System, or VEHCS. VEHCS is USDA APHIS's online electronic health certificate system whereby accredited veterinarians can electronically create, issue, and submit health certificates to their USDA endorsement office, and USDA can potentially digitally endorse. We'll return to VEHCS later on in the presentation. Regardless of the type of health certificate required or how you issue it, timing is essential when an animal is moved to another country. Given that health certificates are a declaration of the health status of an animal, it comes as no surprise that the requirements for an animal to enter another country must be performed within a certain time frame prior to entering that country. Additionally, some countries need these requirements to be performed within a certain sequence in relation to one another. The timing of your issuance of the health certificate is also important, since all health certificates have a set validity period before they expire and thus cannot be used to enter the destination country. So when issuing health certificates, remember that there are certain timeframes for when you examine, apply identification to, vaccinate, test, or treat, that sometimes those actions must be performed in specific steps, and the health certificate needs to be issued within the required timeframe to ensure it does not expire prior to either the animal's departure from the U.S. or arrival in the destination country. We can summarize the health certificate process in the following way. Once your client informs you of the animal's upcoming travel schedule, it's best practice to check your accreditation has not expired, and if you recently moved to another state, that you are authorized to perform accredited work in that state. Then, you will visit either the PTW or IRegs to obtain the country-specific import requirements for that type of animal. As we've discussed, if no information is available on the USDA APHIS website, then you or your client will contact an animal health official of the destination country to obtain the requirements. Once you have the requirements, you will make a timetable of any required examinations, vaccinations, testing, and treatments, paying particular attention to if the destination country requires these be performed in a specific time frame or a sequence. The sooner you and your client do this, the better, since some countries require waiting periods after completion of requirements. With your plan in place, you will carry out any required examinations, testing, vaccination, and treatments. Once that's complete, you can issue the health certificate required by the destination country, either by issuing a paper health certificate or using VEHCS. It is imperative that the health certificate is legible, so if you opt to issue a paper health certificate over using VEHCS, it is preferable for the health certificate to be typed. Many of the health certificates in the PTW and IRegs are fillable for this reason. Regardless of if you issue a paper health certificate or use VEHCS, as you complete the health certificate, double-check that the information matches its supporting documentation, such as vaccination certificates and laboratory reports. If the health certificate does include certification statements, make sure the non-applicable statements are removed, when indicated, by either selecting the applicable statement in a radio button or lining out the non-applicable statement and initialing the line. With the latter, please be aware that some countries do not permit lineouts, so watch for these warnings in the PTW and IRegs. Your last step in the completion of the health certificate is for you to sign and date it by entering your printed name, signature, and date of signing. The date must be the actual date you issue the health certificate. It cannot be a past or future date. If the destination country requires endorsement of the health certificate by USDA APHIS, This step should be included in your plan to ensure there's time to obtain endorsement. For paper health certificates, either you or your client can submit the health certificate to USDA APHIS. Regardless of who submits the paper health certificate, USDA APHIS must be provided the original health certificate. For VEHCS health certificates, you'll submit the health certificate to your USDA endorsement office electronically within the system. Supporting documentation may need to be provided. For example, if laboratory testing or rabies vaccination is required. Also, payment must be provided with the submission for USDA APHIS's endorsement fee. USDA APHIS will review the health certificate for compliance with the import regulations. If the health certificate is compliant, the health certificate is endorsed by assigning a unique certificate number, a veterinary medical officer signing, and USDA APHIS's embossed or digital seal applied. The health certificate is then returned with the method requested by the submitter. After endorsement, some countries require the health certificate to be countersigned by their embassy or consulate, or for the exporter to provide other advance notification of the upcoming arrival in their country. If so, the PTW and IRegs will indicate this when USDA APHIS is aware of such a requirement. Once any post-endorsement requirements are met, the endorsed health certificate must accompany the animal to the destination country. We'll review two examples to show what this process could look like to you. Let's say your client is taking her dog to France. You'll start by visiting the USDA APHIS Pet Travel website. Notice the beige menu bar on the left side of the screen that explains the types of animals this website applies to, where to go to find information on taking a pet from the US to another country, where to go to find information on bringing a pet into the US from another country, contact information for, and helpful information from your USDA endorsement office, and helpful references for pet travel. USDA APHIS does not regulate the interstate movement of pet animals, including to U.S. territories, but a jumping point for this information is available in the PTW. Before you select France in the Export drop-down menu, read the helpful information in this window with its reminders on how other countries can and do change their requirements frequently and without notice, and that there are other governmental and private organizations involved in pet travel. Now select France in the drop-down menu and click View Requirements to go to the PTW page for France. We'll come back to the orange banner seen here when we discuss VEHCS again. Since your client is taking her dog, you'll select the black bar for pet dogs, cats, and ferrets to expand the bar and review France's requirements for pet dogs. Read each step carefully, since failure to do so may result in the dog being ineligible for travel to France, leading to problems for you with your client and USDA APHIS. Once you've read all the information in the drop-downs, click to obtain the health certificate. In this situation, the PTW has more text for you to read to make sure you obtain the health certificate applicable to your client's travel plans. Once you've read the information, you'll select Owner traveling on the same plane as the pet, since your client and her dog are traveling together. Again, read through the information available to ensure you are preparing a compliant dog for travel to France. Notice that USDA APHIS is providing you with help in preparing the health certificate in the form of instructions. Make sure you click on that document and use it when you complete the dog's health certificate. Now click on the Health Certificate blue button to open the health certificate. When you're ready to issue the health certificate for the dog, you'll click on the fillable fields to type in the required information as seen here. Then you'll print the health certificate, complete any information that couldn't be typed, and sign and date the certificate. What about livestock, like sending breeding cattle to Canada? For these types of non-pet animals, you'll use the USDA APHIS IRegs. Read the information available on the main page, and then select Canada from the drop-down menu. Again, we'll discuss this purple banner later on. So for now, read the general information on Canada below the banner, then scroll down the page to the section on cattle. Again, read the important Canada-specific information, including this notice about the U.S. being affected with vesicular stomatitis at the time of recording, and then click on the link titled Bovine, including Bison, Breeding, Protocol, and Health Certificate. The PDF that opens explains Canada's requirements for the import of breeding cattle and ends with a country-specific health certificate for these animals. Similar to our example with sending a dog to France, when you're ready to issue the health certificate, you'll click on and complete the fillable fields prior to signing the health certificate. What happens if you don't properly prepare an animal to move to another country? The burden of responsibility falls on you. Recipients of the AVMA's Professional Liability newsletter are likely familiar with select malpractice claims from non-compliant international exports, as seen here. Additionally, and as we discussed at the beginning, accredited veterinarians are acting on behalf of USDA APHIS from 9 CFR 161.4. If you do not uphold the standards, you may be investigated by USDA APHIS's Investigative and Enforcement Services, which can result in you paying a monetary fine as a civil penalty, be criminally investigated by the Office of Inspector General, which could lead to your prosecution by the Department of Justice in a federal court, as well as USDA APHIS suspending or revoking your accreditation status. So remember, health certificates are legal documents that you alone are ultimately responsible for. To prevent this from happening to you, let's review common mistakes made when issuing health certificates that can jeopardize your accreditation status or cause problems for your clients. Starting with common mistakes with the health certificate itself, to avoid using an incorrect or outdated health certificate, always check the USDA APHIS PTW or IRegs for the most current version. Other countries can and do change their regulations without notice, so even if you issued the same certificate the week before, check again because regulations may have changed. Then, if you make a mistake while writing a health certificate out by hand, either start over with a new health certificate or draw a single line through your mistake and initial the line out. As you complete the health certificate, take care that you complete the health certificate in its entirety. Generally, the information in a health certificate is required to be provided. It is not optional. So if fields are left blank, a delay in endorsement could ensue as your USDA endorsement office waits for you to complete it. Incorrect information is a very common mistake and can affect every part of the health certificate, but the method for preventing such mistakes is very simple. Just always double-check the information you recorded in the health certificate is correct, and if that information is based off of other documentation, like a vaccination certificate or laboratory report, check that the information matches between the health certificate and supporting document. In addition to checking testing information matches between the health certificate and test report or chart, always make sure you use the test type required by the destination country, even if it's not your preferred test method, or it requires you sending a sample to a diagnostic lab you don't normally use. Additionally, if the health certificate requires you to record the date of testing, always remember that for blood tests, the date of testing is the date of sampling, not the date the result was made available. For tuberculosis testing, the date of testing is the date of reading, not the date of injection. And if the test is still pending at the time you need to issue the health certificate, do not issue the health certificate without first speaking to your USDA endorsement office. Another common mistake we see is expired accreditation and not pursuing authorization to perform accredited work after moving to another state. So before you issue a health certificate, always check your accreditation status is current and for the state you are performing accredited work in. Health certificates cannot be pre- or post-dated, no matter how extenuating the circumstance is for you or your client, So do not attest to examining the animal or issuing the health certificate on a date earlier or later than when you actually did. If you did not perform the required vaccination, testing, or treatment, keep in mind that this work must have been performed by another accredited veterinarian. The only exception to this rule is vaccinations for companion animals. In either case, it is your responsibility to confirm that that veterinarian performed the work. You're the accredited veterinarian issuing the health certificate and thus attesting to the truth of the information contained within it. It's not an excuse to say someone else administered a vaccine or performed a test. Also, fraudulent supporting documentation is real, and performing your due diligence and confirming the authenticity of a vaccination or lab report avoids headaches down the road. While these last items aren't problems that would necessarily jeopardize your accreditation status, if not all required documentation is provided to USDA APHIS at once, this can result in delays in endorsement that can be problematic for your clients. These types of problems include documents that support the information in the health certificate, such as vaccination certificates and laboratory test reports, import permits when one is required by the destination country, payment for USDA APHIS's endorsement fee, and a prepaid return shipping label when submitting the health certificate for endorsement by mail, or when using VEHCS and USDA APHIS cannot digitally endorse it. Altogether, you can see these mistakes are generally simple and thus easily avoided or prevented by taking care to follow the import regulations as they are written and double-checking your work. As previously alluded to, VEHCS can make the issuance and submission of international health certificates easier, and can help avoid some of the aforementioned mistakes when issuing health certificates. First, what exactly is VEHCS? We've discussed its USDA APHIS's online electronic system for the creation, issuance, and endorsement of international health certificates for the export of live animals and germplasm from the U.S. What this means for you is you are able to electronically create and submit a health certificate to your USDA endorsement office once you've registered for this secure system by obtaining an e-authentication account to verify your identity. Please be aware, e-authentication accounts are unique to an individual and thus cannot be shared. If you violate this policy, USDA reserves the right to terminate the account, and an investigation may be pursued for accreditation violation. By electronically creating and submitting the health certificate in VEHCS, you no longer issue a paper health certificate to overnight mail or deliver in person to your USDA endorsement office. While VEHCS has the capability of also allowing your USDA endorsement office to digitally endorse health certificates, not every destination country yet accepts USDA's digital endorsement. If a destination country does not accept USDA APHIS's digital endorsement, the health certificate will be endorsed like a traditional paper health certificate, with the USDA APHIS veterinary medical officer signing in ink and embossing with USDA's seal. But if a destination country does accept USDA APHIS's digital endorsement, the health certificate will be digitally endorsed in VEHCS by application of the veterinary medical officer's digital signature and application of USDA's digital seal, and then available to you in VEHCS to print and give to your client to then accompany the animal during travel. To determine the extent to which VEHCS can be used, check the IRegs or PTW page for the country your patient is traveling to. At the top of each country page is a color-coded banner that indicates that country's level of acceptance. For example, this green banner indicates that this country allows both you to electronically submit and USDA APHIS to digitally endorse health certificates and VEHCS for all animals, whereas this orange banner tells you that you may electronically issue the health certificate in VEHCS, but USDA APHIS will still have to print the health certificate from VEHCS to physically endorse it. Regardless of how a health certificate was endorsed, a paper hard copy of the endorsed health certificate must accompany the animals when they travel. Again, if a destination country accepts USDA APHIS's digital endorsement, the endorsed health certificate is available to you in VEHCS, and you will print the endorsed health certificate to accompany the animal during travel. For VEHCS health certificates that the destination country does not permit digital endorsement of, since those health certificates are endorsed like paper health certificates, those health certificates will need to get back to the animal in the traditional manner, either by mailing or pickup in person. Once you've registered and logged into VEHCS, you'll see there are two main methods for issuing health certificates: defined and AV PDF upload certificates. The VEHCS defined health certificates walk you through the process of issuing a health certificate, step by step, as seen here. Whereas the AV PDF upload certificates will appear familiar, since it uses the traditional paper health certificates from the IRegs and PTW, but turns them into an electronic health certificate once you've completely issued and uploaded it into VEHCS, as seen here. VEHCS is becoming an ever more popular tool for accredited veterinarians because it saves you and your client time and money by allowing the instantaneous submission of your health certificates to the USDA Endorsement Office, because neither you or your client have the time and expense associated with overnight mailing or driving to and from an endorsement office. For countries who accept USDA's digital endorsement, even more time and money is saved because you're then able to print the endorsed health certificate from VEHCS and give it to your client. Do keep in mind that it's only the handoff of health certificates in VEHCS that is instantaneous. The endorsement process remains the same as with paper health certificates, so do not wait until the last minute to submit a health certificate for endorsement. Another advantage of VEHCS is that the defined health certificates walk you through the issuance of the health certificate to minimize errors, and if you do make a mistake, the health certificate can easily be returned to you for correction, again, without the time and expense of overnight mailing or a return trip to the USDA endorsement office. For accredited veterinarians who are apprehensive of using new technology, VEHCS has a dedicated IT support line for tech help. There are also step-by-step online guides to using VEHCS. Additionally, VEHCS still allows you to use your support staff to assist in preparing health certificates for issuance, and it helps with administrative functions like managing money for payment of USDA's endorsement fee, and allowing you to quickly retrieve and view previously issued and endorsed health certificates. While we cannot imagine why you wouldn't want to use VEHCS, it is not mandatory to use VEHCS with a few exceptions, which will be noted on the IRegs or PTW. Outside of those exceptions, it is acceptable to continue to use paper health certificates. For whichever method you select to issue a health certificate, do not issue both a paper and VEHCS health certificate, because only one health certificate may be issued per export, and make sure the endorsed health certificate accompanies the animal at the time of travel. For more information on VEHCS, including how to get started using it, please see the VEHCS help page. To find it outside of this presentation, it's available by clicking through the PTW's helpful references for pet travel, or by clicking the link in the green, yellow, purple, and orange VEHCS banners. In addition to the VEHCS help page, the USDA APHIS web pages listed here will help you with your accredited work in moving animals around the world. It is recommended that you bookmark these pages for future reference. If you have additional questions on the international movement of animals, please contact the USDA Endorsement Office serving your state. Our contact information is available through the link provided here. Thank you for viewing this presentation on an accredited veterinarian's role in the international export of animals.